Hey guys, Steeple here. Today I got a game in the Martel for you, a ship we haven't seen for a little while on this channel. I got Rue on the screen here, I got Scott, Makawa. I was fiddling around with this build as you see here on the mod section. I actually have that range booster in slot 4. I switched that back once I realized that. Put it back into the DPM build. Just was fiddling around with Kuznetsov as an inspiration once he came out in different combinations of range. So just keep that in mind. That's not my necessarily preferred build, but that was the build I was running in this game. Now, this game is all about dodging. There's two types of forms. There's one from the PC version called WASD hacks. W is how you go forward in that game, I believe. S backwards, and then A and D would be left and right, presumably. I'm going to call them WASDacks. You know, maybe that's how the PC people already call it, or say that word anyways, but I think WASDacks sounds pretty cool. So I'm going to go with that, and that's going to be the first kind of sequence we're going to display here. Second sequence will just be open water, dodging, and we'll see how much damage we can accrue doing both of these methods. But I've seen some people saying they disagree with me with my recommendations for the quote-unquote defensive commanders, which I use on some cruiser lines like the French, some I don't. One guy even on Reddit said he had or unsubscribed from the channel when he heard me recommending that. So he won't actually get to hear this explanation of what I'm thinking. But when you're using those commanders, number one, you have Ingenious, which tells you how many times you're being targeted. Useful information, increases the turret traverse, extremely valuable on most cruisers. But then you get a couple of speed perks, a couple of steering gears perks, and the extra speed and the extra dodge ability. This is going to be the example of when that's kind of helpful. Yeah, if you're getting 3 to 5% more damage in your offensive commander build, you get 100,000 K game. Wow, you got up to 103,000, 105,000. But if you get blasted because you're slow to get on a turn that you'd otherwise be able to get if you're running Makawa or Rue or one of those guys, then you're not going to get to that 100,000, and that extra 3% or 5% or whatever you're getting on your AP pen and your HE fire chance, boosts with your quote-unquote offensive commander builds. Those opportunities to get that scoring done isn't necessarily there if you get blown up all the time. So I don't care which build you use. My advice generally is for most cruiser players, especially those who are having trouble surviving, those type of commanders are going to be better. Anyway, here we get into the WASDacks section. Kutuzov. What we're going to be seeing here, we're backing up, baited the shot, then we slammed it into forward as soon as he fired, and we're going to keep doing that back and forth. You can just keep an eye on for most of this match. Number one, the diagram in the bottom to see the angling, and you can see we have a very steep angle on this guy, so even if he does hit us, we're going to minimize the damage as you see there. And when he's broadside like that, he's not minimizing that damage. But then keep an eye on the speed there. Bump it up to half, go all the way back, bump it up to full. Ideally, a sequence like this, when you're trying to throw these guys off, forward, back, forward, back, 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 forward, forward, back, back, mix it up like that and just these seemingly random patterns, and you can see the frustration. And my God, when people are doing this to you, especially cruisers, it's very frustrating because the cruisers are usually the higher priority target. There's a reason you're targeting them over and over again. And if they're dodging these shots, and if you do get a shot through and they block most of it, you get a couple thousand damage. Meanwhile, you're getting citadel left and right with the return fire. Extremely frustrating, and it's not pleasant to play around with. So we got that Kutuzov basically dead at this point in time. Now we drop spot because our destroyer smoked up the enemy cruiser for some reason. Anyway, we're not able to quite finish him off, but now we're turning away from the CNOP. We need to angle here now. The CNOP's going to overmatch the armor. I have no idea what the armor values are on the Martel. I'd love an armor view in this game if you guys want to keep giving them recommendations on things that would improve the game. I think armor view would be the number one quality of life improvement that they call it. But, I do have enough experience playing with the CNOP and the Martel to know that the CNOP can blow me up from any angle. So when we're angling towards him every time he fires, that's primarily to dodge the shots. And there's two different types of dispersion with these guns that go off. vertical dispersion, which is when the shots go high or low from where you're aiming, and horizontal, which left and right. So a battleship, when they shoot a stealth at you, assuming you're not point blank range, if you point directly at them or directly away from them, i.e. angle directly at them, a good chunk of their shots, 2/3 of the shells might go either left or right of your ship. And then the ones that do hit your ship, if they hit you in the angled sides, maybe they'll bounce if the calibers work out, or you'll at least mitigate the damage, help protect the Citadel from taking those devastating strikes. So even though, I'm a quote-unquote weakly armored cruiser, I still want to angle against him. Immediately switch back to the AP on the Kutuzov, and that's because we have a limited window here. And here we're going to be employing another psychological aim point here. He's slowing down, he's drifting. We can see he's about to back up. We get one shot at the guy, so we aimed at the back of his ship, and we got him there. So there's counters to the WASDacks, which that was just a tiny little mini WASDAC sequence there. But you always, whether you're on the dodging side of the shells or the firing side of the shells, you want to recognize, is this guy actually trying to dodge? And if he is trying to dodge, what would I probably do in his situation? Because ships that are actually trying to dodge usually are above average players, because most people that kind of casually play the game just sail mostly straight lines for the most part. So they're not going to be good enough to be dodging. So if someone's dodging your shells, it's safe to assume they're pretty good players. And in that case, you can get into their head and say, all right, what would I do in that situation? And then react accordingly. So CNOP's pulling away there. We get a double fire on him. I would like to get him down, but this Tirpitz is shooting. Now you can see we're angled primarily at the Tirpitz and whatever his buddy is down there. Again, that's to primarily dodge the majority of those shells. CNOP's not shooting at me. He's not paying attention to me because he's got closer targets to him. Now we only have 2 ships left. They have 6, looks like. And we have roughly 60,000 damage right now. Now keep an eye on that, because the rest of this game, I'm still going to be trying to win the game, and the Destroyer, frankly, on my team is going to be trying to win the game. And we do a pretty valiant effort at it. But the rest of this is open water dodging. Again, you want to be keeping an eye on the diagram, see who we're angling against, see how steeply we're angling, and the throttle. You're going to see it go from full to quarter to negative full to 3/4, back and forth, along with swinging our ships, pointing which way we're heading. This is all dodging. This is all making it harder and harder for these guys to hit us. And this is the only way to get away with this kind of stuff in a cruiser. And again, if you're running Lemon in this situation, you're not dodging these shots the same way that Rue is. So whether or not you think Lemon or Rue is the better build for the Martel, that's a great debate that I would love to have. And I can make a strong argument for both of them, as I'm sure most players can. You can say, oh, Lemon's better at this, Rue's better at that. I prefer Lemon because of this, or I prefer Rue because of this. But the dodging, open water type of stuff, like when I run Atago on my, the Atago Azure Lane Commander, on my Megami or the ship Atago versus Makawa, much less dodgier, and I just have to really be paying attention to the angles, really be paying attention to who's actually shooting at me, and pre-positioning those ships, because the room for the margin of error is greatly diminished when it takes longer to get the ship turning, when you have slower speed. There's other aspects to it, lower incoming damage, potential dispersion increases, all sorts of stuff, these defensive builds that the quote-unquote offensive builds don't have. Kagero pops up. Wasn't really expecting him to be there. Popped the sonar and widespread torps. All right, so we give a tug on old Neptune's beard there to say thanks for incoming widespread torps, because those, of course, are the only torps that we want ever fired our way. Why people keep launching widespread torps at distances greater than 1/3 of a kilometer, I have no idea why, but every time they're coming my way, I love it. So we give thanks to Neptune's beard. Take him out. Now, we did take a lot of damage here, by the way. The Hood was pounding us, and we went from a fair amount of health to not a lot of health here. But we did get the Kagero down, and that's important because they're down to 3 or 4 ships. They still have a destroyer. We have a cap, but we're on the verge of losing that. The game, again, I'm trying to actually win the game here, and I believe the destroyer is actually trying to win the game here. Is it possible to win the game? Probably not more than once or twice out of 100 times would you win a game. where people are doing what they're doing on both sides of the ball here. But I think, go back to that damage we had earlier. It was 60,000, 64,000, something like that. More than doubled it, and we put up a pretty respectable 4 times our ship's HP. It's going to be, I believe, about 5 times. I think we get 164 when it's all said and done. I'm not gonna make you sit through it, because at this point I'm getting really aggressive. I see we're down, we're about to be down 3 caps, and I'm like, all right, if we're gonna actually try and win this game, we have to rush this guy and torp him, even though it's an extremely risky play, and you can see why that's risky, because he immediately blows us up. And that's another illustration of rushing battleships with cruisers. Almost always I would criticize that play, and the only reason I did it, I'm saying, okay, this is a dumb play, but if we want a chance in hell to win this game, which of course I was trying to win the game even though the odds were long, that was what occurred to me as maybe turning the tide. Now this Jervis will actually torp this guy, and he does a fairly good job here, but we of course do lose the game. Shouldn't be a surprise. But I'm not going to make you sit through the rest of this. You can see the damage is still going up with the fire, but that was the WASDacks, the playing with the throttle, playing with the direction of the ship, almost stationary, just kind of taunting the guy back and forth, dodging back and forth. Very risky, but if you're angled steeply, you can get away with it. And then the second half, open water dodging. Again, playing with the throttle, playing with the heading, but trying to stay at greater distance, try and be more of a flowing type of a gameplay. So hopefully those were illustrative for you guys. And regarding commanders, if you're inclined to dodge, meaning you've moved beyond sailing in a straight line for the most part, you're actually going to try and dodge shots. The defensive commanders are going to make that a lot easier. Whether you choose to use them or not is up to you. We can still be friends. So anyway, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Hope you enjoyed the look at the Martel. If you did, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing, and stay tuned for the pending giveaways. I don't know when we'll be able to stream next. I got a very busy week coming up, but there's a possibility that the next stream we have will be celebrating the 10K, and there's probably almost for sure going to be giveaways involved for subscribers of the channel, followers of Twitch, or not Twitch, Twitter, and members of the Discord, but we'll keep you updated with all that stuff. So stay tuned, but you probably want to be subscribed if that sounds interesting to you. And questions, comments, leave them below. I do love to hear from you guys. See y'all later. All right, peace.